Well, hello, good friends. Mark Holmes here at my day job, and as always, I want to thank you all for being part of my day job as well as my other channels that I have as well. A couple of days ago, well, actually last Tuesday, my Inventables came in and we started putting it together. Unfortunately, we had a slight issue with one of the little buttons. The great people from Inventables, I was actually on customer service with them. We diagnosed it, figured out the problem. They ended up overnighting the part to me. So I got it together, and I've done a couple of things here with the unit, and I tell you, it is amazing. But like everything, you end up learning as you go on. A couple of things that I've learned since I've gotten this all together to make this a little bit better. If you happen to get an Inventables and you're starting to build your setup before the unit comes in, here's a good tip for you. Plan on having the electricity and the CPU to be on the back left hand side, because this is actually where my CPU is. It's down here because it needs to be close to that left corner side. So you'll need electricity in that corner. You'll need a place to put it. It ended up working out by hook or by crook, or however you want to say it, that it ended up working out perfectly, that I could end up using into this cabinet. This whole thing is kind of crazy because originally I was getting the 2x4 unit, but because of supply shortages, they didn't have all the parts in stock to make that 2x4 unit, so they ended up letting me have the 4x2. So I had to redo the cabinet that I had, because originally I just made a cabinet that was big enough for the first unit. But it ended up being a blessing getting this one in here. I have a small workshop, but I have made it so it's more conclusive. No, it's easier to work in here now that we've redone the workshop. So I'm happy about it. We've been actually letting this bad boy just go to work. I'm still able to use my table saw or my planer, assemble cabinets, paint. I can do everything while this is running. So I'm actually getting more work done having this quicker and better. Still am just learning. I've only done a couple of projects. Second thing I ended up figuring out, before the unit got here, I had planned on having the interface, which is this switch right down here, on the other side. And so it'll work over there, and I had been keeping the computer over there because it's great, because I can kind of lean on the counter and everything else. But here's what I've learned. When you go to set up everything, it's this front corner. You need to be able to see where that bit is and adjust it. So if you have the computer like I did over there in the interface, where you've got to go ahead and put the probe on here, you got to stretch it all the way across. It doesn't work real good. So what I've done is I've moved the little shelf that I had over there over here, so this way we have the start, stop, the resume, and cancel there. But I've also went ahead, again, because my workshop is small, I'm going to be assembling stuff here. But what I've done is I've actually made a computer shelf to go right here, so that way I can have the computer sitting here ready to go. And I left myself enough space that I can actually put a mouse on here. Now, you got to make sure when you're working you don't tilt the computer screen back too far, of course, that you hit the machine, but there's still plenty of clearance. And then we of course can just plug this back in here. Also, to make it better, I ended up putting an outlet right here, so that way the computer power cord has got a little shelf for it to sit there, and I can just plug right in, and I am good to go to be able to work with the unit. So from the standpoint of being able to work here, I've got a perfect height for standing shelf. I can put the mouse pad. I'm going to get me a mouse and a mouse pad to go in here, and I can do my work right here. So I'm excited about that. Another thing I've learned, so I've started doing some projects, and I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. And so what I did, I went through and I painted some boards a solid color. And this is Roger Staubach and Tom Landry. Problem is this is actually like a negative. I got it backwards. So what I really need to do, and I'm going to redo it. This is actually going to be a giveaway, and Troy Daniels is actually going to get this one. So we're saying this is a mistake, but It's the first one. So if I happen to get famous one day, he can say, I have the very first thing that came out of his shop. So what I'm going to do, this is a piece of solid pine. You could do this out of plywood or anything else, but I just like solid woods. Because when I chamfer the edge, we don't have any of the plywood edges and things on there, so it looks nice. The only thing is, and this looks better from a distance, the further away you go, the more you can kind of pick out the look on it. So this is trial and error, so don't quote me on this being perfect. You see how nice that looks there? So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and do the board natural. Now I could go ahead and put varnish and everything on there, so that's done, and then it sets and it's great. Or I can varnish it afterwards. But what I'm going to try and do, and I saw a video before, and I don't know if I have the right stuff or not, but what I'm going to do is use this film, and I hope that it sticks well to the wood. And the reason you put the film on it is, put the film on there and it seals the top of this. When you go through, after you've done the cuts of course will cut out the plastic, but I think there's a problem. I think you need to use a downward bit when you do it, so that way it doesn't tear the plastic up. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see. But you use this, so that way once you're done doing the carving, you can spray paint the color. So instead of this being where you see the natural color wood, that would be black. And then of course the other stuff would end up being the natural color pine. So it will be reversed. That's the hope. And so like I said, I am learning on the fly here on using this. I've only done a couple of pieces. This is a test run here too, because again, I don't know because I've never used it before. But I've actually used epoxy. This is my logo here, Jobu. I've actually used epoxy. This is a food grade with a colorant in it. And I put this in last night. It's supposed to dry and cure for 24 hours. And what I'm hoping will happen is, I'm going to run this through my thickness sander. Now, here's what I'm told, is when, of course, you're sanding this stuff, it's toxic, so you always want to wear a respirator. This is where it's good that I have a dust collection system in there. But you got to make sure that you sand this slow, because if you sand it fast, it will end up heating it up to the point where it's not, won't be able to keep its gloss. Now, I don't know how much of the gloss it will lose in here, but my concept and idea, and the reason why I'm trying to do this, it does add time and expense, because the little bottles that you see over there, it's 2 bottles right there, it's a 2-part mix. That's like $22 right there. Now again, those are small containers, but it's just a test run. And I got a colorant for it. If it works out, this is what I'll be doing. What we will be doing is doing custom butcher blocks, okay? Custom butcher blocks where I cut out whatever a person wants in there, and then I can color it with whatever color we want to use, which will make it pop. And since that is a food grade epoxy resin, then the cutting board is still usable on that side. Now, me personally, if I ended up going through the expense and doing all this, I probably wouldn't cut on this. This would be the side I would have out all the time for people to see, so it looks good, or for serving, and then I would cut, of course, on the other side. So if I get knife marks and things like that, who cares, because that's the work side. But then you have this really nice side. So that's an experiment that I'm trying with the system. So we are learning on the fly and still setting up and getting this together. So I'm actually going to get going. I'm going to go ahead and actually use lacquer on the board before I actually cut it and put the stuff on it, because I think if it's finished first, that plastic should sit on there better. And I'm going to do that. And of course, my regular stuff. The reason why I actually got this machine is I do a lot of different crafts and things. And these are what I call Joe Bardies, which are football racks. So the football goes onto these. And I'll be able to cut these pieces out with the machine more precise and better than doing them by hand. I've always been a hand woodworker, and now I'm going to marry the two of them together. So hopefully I'll be able to produce a lot of nice pieces like these, but I'll be able to put custom work on there. So if somebody wants their name or their birth date or something like that, or signage, I can now do that thanks to the Inventables. So I'm going to get to work here and check this out. Okay, so here's what I've done. I have varnished this piece of wood right here that I'm going to try and redo the Tom Landry piece on. And I'm going to try and put this lamination stick sheet on here. Again, this is me doing this trial by fire, or trying it by trial by error and seeing if this actually works. What I'm hoping will happen is this will stick down here, keep everything covered as far as this goes, and then when I always have a hard time getting the paper off these. Then when I go through and put the paint on the in the cutouts, that it'll end up being the paint will go in. The paint will go in, and it won't mess up and get all over what I have varnished. So that's my hope. Again, I'm trying this for the first time myself. You guys, we're learning together here, and we're going to cut the piece out, and then what we'll do is we're going to backfill it with black paint. We'll go out there and put the black paint on it, and hopefully it will be the reverse of what we had before. And what I'm going to make sure I do here is I'm going to make sure we put it on tight, and hopefully we can peel it off, and this will save us a step. The other thing that you probably could do, but then of course that's more work, is instead of worrying about putting this on here, what we could do is I could just take a blank piece of wood, carve it out, paint the black into it, and then sand the whole thing through my thickness sander. But worrying about whether or not I get all the edges down as tight as you'd like is what I'm concerned about. So we're going to try this and see. Hopefully this sticks good enough that we don't have to worry about it coming up as it's cutting. Like I said, this is trial and error. But it seems like it's stuck pretty good. So then it'll just be a matter of, once it's done, painting wise, we got it. Okay. All right. Let's go put this in the machine, and let's go ahead and make some magic. Okay. I think I'm going to try and I'm going to try and make these toggles so that way I can screw them down a little easier than with the hand crank. Or see if I can find some. So here's what I've done, guys. I've actually taken and put plastic film on this. So we can compare the two of them right now that I did. And this is a learning process, of course. This is with the plastic film on it. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to paint the inside of this and then take the plastic film off. So the difference is this. This is what I did yesterday, where I had painted the wood first blue. Problem is this should be shadows, and I've got the reverse of it. So I'm going to paint this and see how it actually works out, and see, we'll be able to see the difference. But you can see how, it's still good either. I think it's good either way, but it's definitely going to be different. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to do a test piece to try my logo out before I put it on this cutting board. So I'm going to set that up. All right, so the Inventables has already done its thing. I've gone through with a coat of black paint. I probably could have used spray paint or lacquer in there, would have dried quicker. But I'll put one coat in here, I'm gonna let it dry, and then put another one on here. And you can see the plastic, of course, is keeping the paint from sticking to it. So hopefully I'll be able to just pull this all off after it's dry, and we'll have the nice silhouette here of Roger Staubach and, of course, Tom Landry. So we'll let that dry and go do some other things and come on back. Okay, so our Inventables is over there doing its thing, and I've gone through and I've taken this and I've painted it. So we're going to go ahead and take the plastic off and see what it looks like. See if this actually works. Well, there you go. Look at that. Wow. What's funny is, you get up close, it doesn't look like the same as it does. Oh my God. Wow. I'm Mark Holmes, and I gotta tell you, this Inventables, it's only limited by your imagination. See you soon.